James Harden. James Harden is back in the news, getting people in Philly upset. We'll talk about that more next on Locked On 76ers.
You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On 76ers your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to PrizePicks.com, Locked On NBA, and use the code all lowercase now, Locked On NBA, for a first deposit match up to $100. I'm Keith Pompey, the co-host of Locked On 76ers, with my man John Mitchell, the legendary John Mitchell. I'm not calling him James Mitchell today, right? We're here with John Mitchell. You know, my man John has a slew of basketball knowledge. He probably forgot more things that I know.
Don't even go there.
You do, bro. You did, bro. You did. But here's the deal, y'all. John, I got something to say. So I'm literally in Nick Nurse's press conference, pregame press conference.
Mm-hmm.
And I got my mind set on what I'm going to write.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, my editor sends me a text and says, James is about to speak, right? Harden. And, listen to it. And maybe we may want you to write something off of it. So I'm like, okay. And then this funny part is the link that I had really wasn't it was hard to get this stuff. It was crazy. I was on my phone, whatever. Well, Twitter was blowing up over what he said.
Right.
And then I listened to the audio, and in a way, I think that people took some snippets out of it, and they didn't they just took three things he said or three words he say and blow it up, and they didn't take the whole thing. But the one thing that I disagree with him about is when he basically said he didn't have freedom. Now, I get that, what he's saying, but when you say you want freedom, you people assume you're saying you want freedom to shoot the ball.
Right.
Outside of that, you have freedom to make your decisions. Now, everybody knows what Doc Rivers said was, and I shouldn't say everybody, but most people in the Philadelphia area who follow the team knows that Doc said it's not a democracy. Your job is you get Joel the ball, and then you and if Joel doesn't have it, you take it. Then after that, you decide. So basically, to me personally, if I'm a ball handling point guard, ball dominant point guard, that's the best situation to be in. So when he says this, you kind of scratch your head a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, well, when he, I think that Harden used a bad choice of words when he said that I'm not part of the system, I am the system.
Yeah.
Once upon a time, James was the system. That time is come and gone. But I think that he was getting his last shots at the organization, getting his last shots at Doc as he went out the door. And quite honestly, it's like, James Harden is if you were part of that system that fell 112-88 in Game 7 against Boston, you were the guy who went 3 for 11 for 9 points with 5 turnovers, Mr. System. Mr. System, you had more turnovers in that game than you had field goal attempts, Mr. System. Mr. System, you went 1 for 5 on 3-pointers, Mr. System. And you committed more turnovers and you made field goals, like I already said. So I think he was salty. Originally he began by saying he just could no longer play for Daryl Morey. So your wishes were granted. Daryl Morey got you to Los Angeles. You should be grateful at some point, And at some point, James Harden should show some accountability. James Harden should have just said, look, it didn't work out for me in Philadelphia the way I wanted it to work out. Because let's remember, he said he told Philly I wanted to retire in Philadelphia, which we all know was a bold-faced lie. We knew that was a bold-faced lie. It's just you huddle up with your agent and said, hey, we need some good PR here. We love Philadelphia, but really he loves LA, as the song goes. So I thought it was I think Harden should have just been more forward looking and say, hey, I'm here with Kawhi, I'm here with Paul George, and we're going to try and win a championship for the Los Angeles Clippers, and just leave it there. But he had to go back into the dirt, and and there's no accountability with Harden. And I guess that's what happens when you play for 4 different teams in 3 years, I guess it is now, almost 3 years.
Yeah, like about that. Let's say he played about 4 years, because when you think about it, he was with, it's actually it's 5 years about that. But yeah, I get you. I get what you're saying now. Like, I get what you're saying, because he was, it's weird because he was in Brooklyn for a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
He was in Philly for a year and a half. So that's 3. And then
Houston.
That's 5 years. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
5 years. Nah, 4 years.
Right? 4 years. 4
years. Because the way it's set up, yeah, that's kind of bad. You know what? The thing that got me is it was kind of sort of like, I do think that some of the stuff he said, like, people just took the words he said and ran with it. Now, What he did is, now maybe it was him. Maybe it was just being smart. Maybe he was like, let me throw this out there, and then keep talking so everybody can use the whole quote. But these 3 words is what I really meant. You know what I mean?
Right.
Now, when they asked him to clarify, and he says, well, just being a playmaker, not shooting. The thing that I don't really understand is when you think of it, James Harden had a phenomenal season last year in the regular season. Now, I guess there's some things saying he was upset that he didn't make the All-Star game. Well, the reason why he didn't make the All-Star game in point was he was missing too many games. He missed, right? And you can't really justify that when you got other young boys who balling out there balling, and this guy is like missing games, and then you're gonna say it. Now, from what the report was and all that, they asked him about being an alternate. He took too long to get back to him. Right. So, so then you hear that he was upset because he didn't make it. But at the same time, like, was that might have been his fault for not reaching back out to people. So, but my thing is, like, I think he lost a lot of money last year when he came out and the report came out with Chris Haynes and said, James said he wants basketball freedom. Now, when he said that, to me, basketball freedom means I want to jack. I want this, I want that, right?
Yeah.
So yesterday, I feel like he was trying to clarify, but at the same time, I felt like he did have basketball freedom. But because let's face it, his job was feed Joel the ball, and then if something else, you take a shot. But then also he was giving it to Maxey. Everybody else was just standing around.
Right.
Straight 2-man game.
Right.
You know what I mean? And Joel Embiid is the MVP. So you got to take second fiddle to him. My big concern now is what's that going to look like when you go to the Clippers? Because, see, the Clippers right now, you got Russ, I think Russ is figuring it out. He realizes he's no longer that same guy. But if we want to go through pecking order, the pecking order right now is Kawhi, PG.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So James, like, where are you going to fit in at?
And if as talented as Kawhi is, he does like to have the ball. He likes to be out pounding the ball and getting to the basket.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah, he wants to create. He creates his own shot. Yep. You're right.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see how he fits in out there. It looks okay on paper, but I mean, number one, the question about the health of the two lead guys is always a concern. And and like you said, James missed a whole lot of games last year. Like I refer to that situation right now as the load management Olympics, man. It's going to be interesting to see which one of those guys can stay on the court the most, and who's taking nights off, because that's just been, because of those guys are advancing in age and their bodies are not what they once were. And James has, never been the best conditioned athlete that he could possibly be, and that dealing with the playing time, and the availability, but also, like you said, both of those guys like to have, particularly Kawhi, man. Kawhi go out on that wing and, go above the perimeter, and you know what that means for James. James is going to step off to the side and watch, and then he becomes a complete non-factor, unless Kawhi will give it back to him and he can hit that three.
Yeah, the grass isn't always greener, as they say, right? You got to be careful what you ask for. But look, when we get back, y'all, I want to talk to y'all about last night's game. I shouldn't say unfortunately, but it's just one of those things right now. When James spoke, it became the news, and people in Philly going to get tired of it. But when people get tired of it. But the one thing I will say before we do this read is that Embiid did say, "Look, bruh, you had the ball all the time. You got the ball every time, every single possession." Let's talk about PrizePicks, Mitch. Right? I like PrizePicks, and the thing is like the thing that I like about it is with the basketball season here, you can now pick combo projections across football and basketball from the special league, a league created specially for combo projections that include two or more players from different sports or leagues. For example, LeBron James plus Travis Kelce at a 10.5 combo of 3-pointers made plus receptions. I mean, we talked about this last time. I mean, that's crazy, but it's fun, right? Right? You know what I mean? Like, bro, what's
analytics
following? Huh?
It brings analytics to betting, man.
Exactly. So, right? You know what I mean? And then also here's something else. Like if you want to play alongside some of PrizePicks' favorite players like rapper Meek Mill or comedian Andrew Schultz, you can now find community plays under the promos tab of the app to view entries from some of the biggest names in the PrizePicks community each week. I'm telling you, man, they doing it big over here on PrizePicks, right?
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? So look, this is what you got to do, y'all. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use the code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit matchup to $100. Again, go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit matchup to for $100. It's highly encouraged, right, to use this, to do this. Go here. I'm telling you. You're going to love it, people. You're definitely going to love it. Now, Mitch, the game last night, the Sixers won 114 to 99. Mm-hmm. And we keep talking about how Tyrese Maxey is going to benefit the most, or we were. Mm-hmm. I want to take that back. I think Tyrese Maxey is going to ball, and he's ascending. Mm-hmm. But what I mean by benefiting the most with James Harden's departure, the person I feel that way is Tobias Harris. Mm-hmm. I mean, Tobias Harris is averaging 20.5 points through 4 games. Last night, Tobias Harris had 23 points. I mean, the guy is balling. He was like their leader in the first half. I believe, in the first half, he scored 14 of his points on 6 for 7 shooting. Yeah. Like he was balling. Yeah, he was balling, man.
Yeah, I still think that they have added by subtracting. And I still think that Maxi's, because I think Maxi's really going to have some games. I think you're going to see some 40-point games out of Maxi. But there's no question that 4 games in, the guy who is really who looks like a different person is Tobias. Tobias is Tobias is attacking the rim now. We hardly ever got a chance to see that in his game last year. It was go down there and stand in front of the bench after if you touch the ball and find it, fit in where you fit in. But yeah, I mean, the guy's shooting 64% from the field. And that 3-point shot that he was making when he was previously with the Clippers looks like it's come back. He's shooting almost 50% on threes. Now we all know that's not going to last for the duration of the season. But it is good to see that he's comfortable in the system early, and that, we won't be saying, well, let's see what happens. You got to get to Christmas. You had those benchmarks. You have to get to Christmas to see where a team is, and you have to get to the All-Star break to see where that team is. But, this Tobias really looks, he looks, he's got some basketball freedom that he didn't have in the last 2 seasons, So it's good to see. I'm enjoying seeing, because I always thought that he was a guy who, some guys can just fit in naturally. Tobias, he seems to be more of an analytic type. He'll stand back and he does more observing when it's just like, dude, just go ahead and be you. And I think that's what we're seeing from him now.
Yeah, I would agree. We are definitely seeing that from him. Now we're also seeing him, he's being more relaxed, being more of himself, because you're right, he does look like that guy. And it's funny, even with the guys here, like the newcomers, Rocco isn't a gun, right? Robert
Right.
Covington's not a gun. Marcus Morris, Mook Morris, he played with him in Detroit. Pat Bev played with him with the Clippers.
Mm-hmm.
Heck, Marcus Morris and him actually kind of played some AAU games together as kids growing up.
Okay.
So they all know what he can do. They all know that he was a McDonald's All-American in high school when them other dudes was like all-state, pretty good. So they know what he can do. So I'm with you. This is this is a great opportunity for him, and there's a great opportunity for him to get paid, whether it's here or elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Let the Sixers know, like, it's about a team. It's not all about just bringing in the best megastars. You know what I mean? Be a team.
Yeah.
So that's what I see from him. He looks good, man. He really does.
I tell you, it was also good to see a little Furkan Korkmaz sighting last night.
Yeah. And that's what I want to talk to you about when we get back, next to talking about Furk, because I felt like, Furk is a guy who, it's funny, he's more athletic than what you think he is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he's a guy who, he's been through a lot, man. He's been through a lot as a Sixer. So we'll talk about Furk when we get right back. But right now, scored early in the NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team win. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in the action. This app is easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Well, Mitch, my man was balling last night. He was coming down there talking about Furkan, going underneath the basket, bloop, getting fouled, swish, right? Doing all types of stuff. And it's funny. Like, I like Furk, man. Like, Furk is the guy that you see him, and he comes from overseas, but the
Right.
brother has swag. I'm talking about
Yeah.
swag. And he's a great guy. The guy that you kind of like root for, right? You know what I mean?
Right.
He's been through a lot. And you're kind of happy to see him get this opportunity. You know, like Nick Nurse is a coach that said, hey, you know what? I'm going to give you an opportunity to show what you can do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Furkan had 10 points on 4 for 7 shooting. He made 1 or 2 threes.
Mm-hmm.
The brother had 3 steals. 3 steals. And it's funny because they said he couldn't get on the floor last year because he couldn't defend when he wasn't making shots. And he was a plus 16, which was the second best on the team in the game behind Joel Embiid's plus 22. So Furk was balling.
Yeah, you know, one thing about Furk is sometimes he looks like an all or nothing player.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes you got him, and it's like, you know, Furk can't miss from 23 feet, you know. But it's good to see that he's just not, you know, buried on the bench. I mean, his deal. We do know he is a questionable defender. We do know that. But those 3 steals last night, you know, and he got his hands on the balls outside near the perimeter, and got out, you know, on fast break opportunities there. So again, you know, I think it kind of circles back to what we were saying from Nick Nurse. You know, the offense looks completely different. Different guys look like they will be contributing. And, you know, again, the one thing that stands out to me is we had another night from Joel where he had 7 assists. So I think that Furk needed that game. He needed that game, and hopefully he can continue to make, you know, contributions there, because, you know, there are some times when he's on the court and you're like, oh no, now, you know, he's not giving us anything. He's not moving his feet on defense. But last night wasn't that night. When they needed that spark, you know, midway through the game, he was one of the main contributors to it.
Yeah, he was one of the main contributors. I think sometimes is it me, or do you think like Furkan gets a little pigeonholed sometimes because he can shoot?
Yeah.
But he's more of a playmaker too. It seems like Nick Nurse has him out there, allowing him to make plays, allowing him to play freely. And by doing that, it seems like he's in a better groove. You know what I'm saying? Before he was in the corner.
Yeah.
Huh?
He because he can do more than shoot the 3. Again, a lot of times he's been all or nothing, and that all has a lot of times been the ability to drop that 3. And when it's not falling, sometimes it's like, oh, get him off the floor. But we know Furk can play. You know, we know Furk can play, and a new system where there's more ball movement will probably benefit Furk.
Yeah, I agree. 100%. But hey, look, y'all, I want to thank y'all for listening today, right? And we want y'all to have a blessed day. Again, you know, you need to come here. Our podcast is 5 days a week. We have my man, Mr. Mitchell, you know, not John Mitchell, not James Mitchell. I'm gonna stop you with that joke getting old. I'm gonna stop.
That's too much James Harden, man.
Yeah. But we want to thank y'all for listening and have a good day. Remember, you can get this podcast wherever you get your podcast at. It's free and available. Also, you can go to our YouTube channel, Locked On 76ers YouTube. And we suggest that you click on that Liberty Bell to become a new subscriber. And then once you become a new subscriber, you will also get notifications. But listen, leave comments. Even if you don't like my glasses, you don't like the hoodie, you don't like whatever you do, you don't like me, just leave a comment, man.
Right.
You appreciate that. But again, make sure you can get our podcast wherever you can. It's free and available. And make sure you click on that Liberty Bell on the podcast. But, all right. We want y'all to have a blessed weekend, and we'll be back with y'all next week.
Have a great one.
Peace.